everybody.
Hi, everyone. We're going live here. Perfect.
Well, welcome. Welcome to our first ever show. I mean, this is making history right now. So, Clara, why don't you kick it off?
Perfect. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Clara. We're so excited to be here with each and every one of you for our very first live stream from Adobe Education. My name is Clara Galán. I manage our educator community programs here at Adobe, and I'm a former middle school teacher myself, and I'm really looking forward to connecting with each and every one of you today.
And my name is Tanya Avrith, and I work on the evangelism community team as the education evangelist here at Adobe for Education. And we're really thrilled to be joining you today, kind of fitting as we're all kind of home in this virtual space, that we will have our show today virtually. So a few things that we want to get started. If you're watching live, please feel free to go ahead and introduce yourself in the comments. We want to get to know who's watching and get to know you and provide this as an opportunity to build some community within our community so you can learn from each other and get to know who's watching. So take a moment and introduce who you are and where you're joining from today. I'm joining from South Florida. And Clara, where are you joining from?
I'm joining from San Francisco, California. So it's amazing how technology can connect us from all over the world. And I'm so excited to see who's joining today. So I see Melissa, and I know Melissa's in Texas, and Diana Keeler joining us. Welcome. We're so excited to have you here.
Well, and if you're not live, if you're watching this later, go ahead and still introduce yourself, because it will be nice to see where people were joining from in general as we kind of begin this journey of remote learning all together. So we're going to be learning great practices. And as we said, it's our first show, so it'll be interesting to sort of see where things go. So Clara, did you want to kind of kick things off for today?
Yeah, and we're really excited to have this show. We're going to be hosting it once every week with different guests, talking about different best practices for distance learning. And this is a really difficult time, I know, for everyone. And I'm sure a lot of you who are watching live or watching this recording, as many schools are moving towards a digital environment, we're really trying to balance so many different things. And I know for everyone who's kind of struggling with different issues, and we want to be able to support you, but also to bring this global community of educators together. And we have a really great way to be able to do this virtually, to use technology, even though we're each in each of our homes, to share what's working and share, what are some of the things you're struggling with as you're trying to reach students. When you're at home, also trying to balance, working with your own kids and being able to support your other students virtually. So we just want to be able to create this online environment for you to really elevate your voices and share with one another.
So I wanted to share a story with all of you. As Clara and I were preparing for our first show today, I'm not going to lie. I work full-time here at Adobe. I'm a former teacher, just so that you get to know both of us a little bit. And by former, I mean I was teaching full-time until basically July of this year. And so I'm very fresh out of the classroom, and just working from home in general, that transition was really hard. And when I didn't have my kids home, but this past week, obviously having my kids home, and I have an 8-year-old son, and I have a 12, it was her birthday, a 12-year-old daughter. And my daughter is a little more independent. For all of you moms who are also trying to balance work and home, I wanted to share a little bit of my perspective and story this past week, and I'm hoping maybe it will make you feel a bit better, because I'm feeling a little bit better today. And so with all things relatively checked, I've been obviously extremely worried. I think we're all very anxious and nervous and worried as we don't know where things stand, not only through our health but also through perhaps or even our jobs, or where we stand in general. And so it's a very disheartening feeling to feel that way. And so on top of that, having to think about homeschooling my children, and let's be real, like teachers, it's really hard to teach full time and then work full time on top of that. And I think there's so many parents who might even be watching going like feeling like either teacher failures, parent failures. And that's what I felt like all year. And Clara can attest, I had we had a meeting, a virtual meeting, and I just broke down in tears.
Virtual hugs.
Yeah. Because I've been working until 2 a.m. every morning trying to balance home and school and my kids and all the demands of work. And for no other reason than I'm just, we have a lot going on. And I broke down in tears in the middle of a meeting. I forgot everything I was going to say. And I just said, oh, and I just cried. And I think it kind of humanized what was kind of happening, because this is not normal. And I've been fighting with my kids so much because I'm trying to homeschool them in the morning, and they're so anxious, and everyone's so anxious. And yesterday morning I woke up and basically it was just screaming all day. Like day 1 started off so great. Day 2 seemed fine. But honestly, by day 4, it was not working anymore. And I just felt like a total failure. And this morning I woke up and I was on Twitter as I was getting up, and I found an article that I came across, and it's a New York Times article, and Clara's going to pull it up. And in the article, basically it was an opinion piece in the New York Times, and she was talking about how she's refusing to homeschool her kids during coronavirus. And now I'm not saying that I'm going to totally not homeschool, but and that I'm not doing anything, but it gave me some permission to feel like it is okay to not be the best teacher or parent at the moment, and to be okay with things being a little bit less stressful, and to be okay with the fact that maybe we're not going to be the best at everything we do, and that we need to be nicer to ourselves, and we need to give ourselves permission to take a breath and allow our kids maybe to watch a little extra television or be on the iPad just a little more as we're trying to balance this new normal and find our way, and to be okay with the fact that things might be a little bit stressful, but to know that our kids don't need to be part of that stress. And the stress that we're feeling doesn't necessarily need to be put on them, because they don't have to always be on top of everything they're doing. And if they miss something, that it's okay. And if we're not being perfect at what we are doing, that's okay too, that we're going to find our way. So I wanted to share that story with you, because I'm hoping maybe you're feeling that and maybe you need to hear that.
Yeah. And I think, Tanya, just what I want to share with educators everywhere is that you are not alone. And I think it's so easy to feel that way sometimes when you are confined to your home and you maybe don't have, interaction in person. But now more than ever, I've seen so much interaction on Twitter and on Facebook within groups of people sharing for the first time, more active than I think I've ever seen it. And so let's really, band together in this. Like, you're not alone. We're here to share resources with one another, share what's working, even to have that moment to vent and say, I'm feeling stressed. Like, how am I approaching this? Like, how are you feeling? And it's okay to feel like you're failing. You can have that community around you and to feel vulnerable. So,
put in perspective the fact that we have to be, not tone deaf to the fact that there are some people that are really going to be really suffering, and we don't know where things are going to go. And so to put things in perspective, I think is really important right now for all of us. And with that being said, we still have the reality for some of you. And I want to be very aware that not all schools are equitable right now, that there are definitely kids that don't have access to technology. There are definitely, schools that do have more access, and to not be tone deaf to the fact that we need to be balancing the needs and the emotional needs, the access needs of our kids. And so that is definitely a real reality for so many of our learners. And with that being said, I think that it's if we are in the situation where we're fortunate enough to have access to technology for our kids, I think that it's okay if you're starting out, you know what, this is the best place to begin from the beginning. And now you're kind of in a place where you are kind of forced to learn, and not in a bad way. You know, sometimes that's the best learning environment, right? When you have a purpose for it. So with that being said, I thought I might share with you some best practices around designing digital lessons. I'm not making these up. These are actually from my very good friends, Lisa Heifel, Kelly Hilton, and Sarah Landis, who developed the premise around the idea of a hyperdoc. And if you're not familiar with a hyperdoc, I'm actually going to walk you through right now the anatomy of a hyperdoc so that you can understand how you might design your lessons and package them in a way where it works for blended learning. So I'm going to do a quick little tutorial and share some strategies and tips. And I'm actually going to leave you with a resource that my best friend, Kristen Magaletti, created that walks you through on your own how to do what I just showed you. So we're going to give you this resource that you can get started on. If it's helpful, we hope it is. And if you're not ready for it right now, if this is not in your mindset, put it away for another time when you feel ready for it. So I'm going to just share my screen. And I'm going to share my screen so that you can see what I am talking about. So what is a hyperdoc? Well, basically a hyperdoc. And Clara, can they see it?
Yeah, everything's looking great.
Awesome. So a hyperdoc is basically an interactive, personalized, engaging design that's using, usually we use a doc. It could be done in a page. It could be done in a Word doc. It doesn't necessarily have to be done in a Google Doc, but it is basically a packaged design that is interactive and personalized and engaging for your students. It's not a version of a worksheet. It's not standardized. It's not a substitution in any way, shape, or form of you as an educator. And it's not just another way to disseminate information to be consumed. It's meant to be really interactive. So it's built out, it could be built out as a unit or a lesson in advance. It has components of really good digital lesson design. So maybe you're familiar with engage, explore, explain, apply, reflect, share, extend. These are actually a lot of the lesson design formats that many schools already use. It encourages students to have more independence. It has engaging packaging. It's flexible in the way that it's designed. And so it also takes into account differentiation and student choice. It allows students to work at their own pace. And it also enables a variety of digital media for students to be able to make their thinking visible. And ultimately, it lets you flip your instruction. So these are some things that I've been using with my students for a long time, but now they really lend themselves in this time of need to how we can think about repurposing and redesigning our lessons. So let's definitely focus on personalizing the experience for our learners. So this is an example of a traditional lesson plan. And I recognize that we don't always plan like every lesson like this, but just so that this probably looks familiar to what you're used to. You have student objectives, performance tasks, assessment evidence, your learning plan, materials, ideas for differentiation, right? This is like using understanding by design, the backwards planning. This is what a lesson plan on the back end might look. On the front end, however, this is an example of what it would look like for your students. So all those elements, these are the pieces that you would give the student and package it so that you would have the connection of something that they would watch and then they would discuss. And then you'd have them write a response and give them something to write the response in. And I'm going to show what that might look like. You'd have them brainstorming. You can even have them in different groups, you know, so this is just using Google Slides and they're brainstorming on a slide. You'd share examples and then you would get them to create and turn something in. Now, I'm going to walk you through an example of one of my very favorite lessons. And this is, I had kids creating manifestos. Now, this is not necessarily one lesson. This took them about 1, 2, 3, probably a good week of instruction to work through. So it's almost more of a unit. It's a summative assessment because I had taught pieces and elements of it. Whoop. So when you break it down, we're looking at it in terms of formative assessment, how we can differentiate instruction, student demonstrations of learning, and curation and reflection. So let's get started. We're going to engage our learners. And in order to engage them, first I would have them watch this video. And in the video, it's a YouTube video. I wouldn't even talk about it yet. I would have them explore the text. So I've taken the text out of the video because it's a famous video from Alan Watts where the text is readily available. And I put it in a doc and force them to forced copy of the doc. And by doing this at the end of your document, you're able to force a copy. If you take off where it says edit and then you hack it and you put copy, and it forces a copy for your students. So if you're not familiar with how to do that, it's a really quick way of getting them to force a copy of something that you want them to be able to work on their own. So there it is. So from edit to copy. And then they were able to go through the text and explore it. Once they were able to go through it, I then had them break down the most important elements of the text and share their thinking in a Padlet. And so they were able to go through, pull out the most important parts, and then share and make their thinking visible. So this is great formative assessment because I'm able to see if they understand how to engage with the text and if they were making meaning of the first element of my lesson, which was getting them to think about the actual visual video that they had just watched and what they had just read. The next step is I get them to explore more media. And one of the things that I get the students to do, and this is really important, is I teach the kids, this is how I'm differentiating. If I'm using YouTube videos, I actually teach the kids how to go in and change the closed captioning. And because people don't realize that on YouTube, you can get the kids to customize the language preference. So if you have English language learners in your class and you go into subtitle, and if you click on the subtitle, you can actually choose and auto-translate different languages that they can look through the visuals. So you're able to really differentiate your instruction. And this works really well as well if you're making your own videos and screencasting them and putting them on YouTube. You can actually differentiate in that way as well. And then I'd have them write a response. And one of the tools that I would use to do that was Seesaw. And you can use different tools for response. There's OneNote, there's Google Docs. I mean, there's all kinds of different ones. I, in this case, had them respond in Seesaw. And this was a high school lesson plan. And then what I'd have them do at this point is I would have them go through the elements and they would respond using an answer garden. And then I would have them create, and in this case, they used posts, and they created their manifestos. I'd walk through how to create. We would investigate mentor examples. This is before they even got to this point. We would talk about aesthetics and design. There's a lot of instruction that's going into this, but when we're ready to kind of get to the point where they're turning their work in, I'd have them turn them all in one place so they can look at each other's work. And so this was really powerful, and it was a really powerful way for the kids to be able to see each other's work and turn it in.
And Tanya, we have a couple questions for those who are tuning in live. So Ivan asks, can I use it with Chromebook? So can you use HyperDocs on any kind of device?
Yes, you're creating the HyperDock. The HyperDock is not necessarily the actual doc per se. It's the instructional design behind it. It's the format that you're thinking about, the way that you're packaging your design. And we're going to leave some resources for you to get started. And one place that's a really great place to start is hyperdocs.co. And Clara's going to put that inside the chat. Mm-hmm. And this is a website that actually has, if you go to hyperdocs.co, I think it's /template or templates. Lisa, Kelly, and Sarah have done a really good job at creating templates for you to get started. So, and like I said, if you use Word, you can use Word, you can use OneNote. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can use an Adobe Spark page I've done hyperdocs in a page. It's not about the tool. It's about thinking about the pedagogy. So remember how I said, you're thinking about formative assessment. You're thinking about how you're going to differentiate instruction. You're designing in a universal way, thinking about all of your learners and giving them opportunities to make their thinking visible, provide all learners with a voice, and provide opportunities for students to share their work. And so what I'm noticing now, and it's okay, guys, it's taken me years to get to a place where my lessons were designed like that. And it's not easy to do. Don't overwhelm yourself thinking like every lesson has to look like that. One of the great things about HyperDocs and Lisa Heifel, Kelly Hilton, and Sarah Landis, they're incredibly generous. And they also have on that website something called Teachers Give Teachers. So it's kind of a play on Teachers Pay Teachers. This is a community of sharing. Also check out their Facebook group as well. It's an amazing community of teachers who are sharing. But go in there because there are actually a lot of lessons that are already pre-packaged that you might be able to create from that. So no one's saying you have to design this from scratch, but this will really, oh my God, I want to cry how much it will help you. This will help you because if you are right now, on a Zoom lesson and you're just trying to get it's like herding cats, having everyone work on the same thing at the same time. This is a really great way of breaking your lesson up and chunking it and then having opportunities for the kids, perfect, to be able to see and be able to gather information by using tools. And some of the tools that we use Adobe Spark, we use Flipgrid, I use Padlet, I use Socrative. I mean, there's a variety of ed tech tools that I might use depending on what I'm trying to do to get an understanding of where my learners are in their learning process. So I think it's really important to first of all, be super easy on yourself and start with maybe one as a starting point, something that you're really comfortable with. Take a template if you want to start from scratch, or go to Teachers Give Teachers and have a look and see if you can find something. And then once you get more comfortable, you'll be super excited to try new tools. But I want you to feel comfortable to understand where to start, and starting small with maybe 1 or 2 tools as a starting point, and then packaging it like that. But thinking about the tool as, how are my students making their thinking visible? How am I providing every learner with an opportunity to have agency and voice, right? Like, how am I providing them with opportunities to hear from every kid in my class? So maybe you're going to use something like a Google Doc in the background as a back channel.
Yeah.
So Clara, we also have a lot of resources. Would you like to share some of the resources that we've been curating? Because our team at Adobe has been working literally around the clock, and like literally around the clock. So go ahead and share some of the resources we have access to for our community.
For sure. And just iterating what you said, Tanya, that it is not about the tool. It's whatever really works for your learners. And again, is making their thinking visible and collaborative. Georgina just posted on here too. She said, I love this. I use Jamboard and Padlet, Mind Map and Flipgrid. Like, all of these things can work together, and it's really about finding what works best for your students and your learners.
And for you, if right now you have a Google Doc in the background of your Zoom class, and you break it up with a table, and you ask some questions in there, or a slide deck. Oh, here's a good idea to start. Take a Google slide deck, have every kid have their own slide, and use that as a collaborative space to work. Mm-hmm. That's such an easy way. And so that when you're, you can get them, and then, you teach good digital, and the kids can go in each other's, they put their name, but that's a great way as a back channel to get to see where kids are. So if that's a starting point, that's a great place to start, and they can share their work there. And it's super, super, super simple to set up. Just collaborative. Everyone can edit one, and you set up their slides. Mm-hmm. So what are other show our resources?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's all about kind of taking that one step at a time. There's so many tools out there. So just trying something, seeing what works, and really going from there. But as Tanya mentioned too, our team has been working around the clock to create, curate a page of distance learning resources for all teachers everywhere. And so if you go to edx.adobe.com/distance-learning, you can see all of these resources that are really there to help you get started. So we have everything from courses, articles, and blogs, how to flip your classroom so that, you can have instruction that students can watch videos or read articles on their own time, and then actually using that virtual time that's live for collaboration and different projects. Another exciting announcement that Adobe came out with last week is enabling Creative Cloud for learners at home. So if they're not in a school environment, they can also be able to access those tools to be able to create at home.
Right, and these are for learners that had access at their school in a lab environment. So if you had access at your school in a lab environment, you will be able, your students are now going to be able to access those accounts, but as at home. So those are for the schools that have access to the lab accounts.
Correct. Yep. And if you have any questions about that, please do feel free to reach out to us. We'll definitely post our emails and how to get in touch with Adobe within the chat. But even beyond, Creative Cloud and Adobe tools, really what we want to do is to be able to provide different strategies, best practices, and then connect educators with one another. So we've also shared resources from UNESCO that has a lot of different resources for distance learning, a combination of activities and instructional ideas for your students, and other ed tech tools that allows you to reach students anywhere. And then even just how to create an online lecture, like how do you use video for the first time to be able to share with students. So this is a really great resource to access. We are also hosting events and webinars, both from Adobe and externally. So we've also referenced Zoom here to Rush, resources from ISTE and EdSurge, and then also webinars that we'll be running every week with different themes, just to continue to support you.
We're going to have a lot. So next week alone, starting Tuesday and every day after, we are going to have webinars going on. I'm actually kicking off the first webinar on Tuesday. The sign up will come out as ASAP. It'll be quick. Yeah. And I'm going to be doing a webinar on Get Started with Spark. And I'll be leaving you with a comprehensive toolkit. A toolkit. I'm so excited about it. A comprehensive toolkit that you can run your own PD, virtual PD if you wanted, or you can just use my webinar and then send out the materials with all the tutorials. But you're going to have a comprehensive kit that you leave with the webinar, and I'm going to have that going live on Tuesday. So we're going to be kicking off so many different webinars almost every day.
Yeah, and a lot of all the resources we're sharing here with you are free and easy to access immediately. And even the other ed tech tools that are mentioned in UNESCO and some of our other blog posts, in addition to Adobe Spark, something you can access immediately, and share with your students. So really excited to be able to share that with everyone. So what I'm going to do is post this in the chat here really quickly. And then also we have a community program that's going to be launching soon as well, called the Adobe Creative Educator Program. And this program is an opportunity for educators all around the world to be able to take courses focused on creativity, on digital literacy, creative literacy. What does creativity look like in the classroom or in distance learning environments? And then how to actually provide badging for educators and then connect them to one another. So we're really excited about that. That'll be launching soon. So you can find how to get early access to that and subscribe to our newsletter on that page. And then we also have a new monthly themes on social media channels that I'm going to share here with you in a moment. that we launched with our new hashtag Adobe Edu Creative. And so Tanya, while I'm pulling that up, do you want to give a quick overview of the purpose of that and how we're connecting educators?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we started it this month, and the idea around it was that we really wanted to engage our community as we're about to launch our community program and really rally our community around themes and ideas. So every month, we are, well, right now we're going to put a little bit of a hold on our monthly themes as we want to be very sensitive and relative to what relevant to what is happening. So our themes are going to shift a little bit more so that we can help our community, in terms of their needs currently. But, we're going to come back to monthly challenges eventually, and they're really around creative and digital literacy. And so we're really looking at how we can be better creators, how we can really think about using the technology and the tools that we have available to us in a more powerful and meaningful way. And so each month, our themes will relate back to those big ideas. So this month we have a challenge that we had going on, and we're going to share the blog post. So if you want to participate still, it's still, something about something fun to take your mind off of things could be nice too. And for no other reason that it's nice to sometimes have something that you do that you like to do. So have a look and yeah, do you want to add anything to that, Clara?
Yeah. And so, of course, we're shifting this to be able to support everyone as they're moving more to those distance learning environments. But all throughout March, what we've been doing is encouraging educators to share with hashtag Adobe Edu Creative to make their own name cards. And so using Adobe Spark to share, their own social media handles, more information. So you can see this example of Jennifer Williams and of Tanya, who is obviously here.
Oh my gosh, I'm almost embarrassed because Claudio Zavala is on, and I know his is so much better, and he's watching, and I'm like, don't judge me, Claudio.
Awesome.
And I didn't want it to be too good. I want other people to shine, not just, mine,
No, of course. And we want to encourage everyone to share theirs. And I think now more than ever, that's so important because we're getting to know other educators virtually, sharing different resources with one another. And let's really build up our professional learning network and to make ourselves, stronger and more connected. So I think now more than ever is a great time to do that.
We want to know who you are. We want to love on you. We want to know, who are you? Share about yourself. Let's connect. That's why Clara and I spend way too much time on Twitter these days. It's kind of sad and wonderful all at once because we really are interested in learning about who you are. And so please feel free to use this hashtag. That's what it's intended for. It's Adobe Edu Creative. I am a creative, you are creative, we are creatives. That's what this is really about. And so we want to celebrate our creative community. And so we really want to be able to hear from you. So take the opportunity to tweet, to share your posts, to ask us questions. That is the channel that we're really, really, really involved in. I mean, we're still looking at other channels, but we really want to build our community. I know that we're kind of almost at time. Before we stop, I want to make sure that we leave you with some practical also. So we've left you with that really great website. And my friend, Kristen Magaletti, who's a legit rock star teacher, literally 5 minutes before going on, sent me this insane resource that I'm going to show you and share as well. So if those of you were asking a ton of questions about how you can use HyperDocs, and what my friend Kristen literally just made this, and she's created a HyperDoc to teach teachers how to create HyperDocs. And it's really simple. She even has a podcast. She teaches you how to create a hyperlink. This is for people who don't know anything. You can send this to teachers in your school that are genuinely completely lost, and she walks you through step by step, screencastify, everything you need to know. She walks you through it. So I want to leave you with that and get you, set up. You also have access to the resources on our site, which are going to literally evolve daily. We're going to keep on adding it. It's live. Be on the lookout for our webinars that are happening almost every single day. Connect with us on Adobe Creative Edu. Please, I'm dying to hear from you. Get creating on Spark Post. Let me see who you are. Create your name tag. Let's start building that community together. We are better together. We want to learn about where you're at and how we can help you. And come back to our live stream show, which is going to be on Fridays, every Friday. No, every Thursday.
Every Thursday. We're doing the pilot today, and it's going to be every Thursday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time. So we'll be on for half an hour. And next week, and I see she's amazing, and here in the chat is Dr. Addison. So we're excited to have her on and talk about her whole Classroom Without Walls that she's really been able to expand internationally, and then just what are some of the best practices. In fact, we learned from her from this live stream.
Dr. I is my oh my God, she's my spirit person. She's like, I love she knows. I can't wait for you guys are gonna love her. Her energy is electric. So yes, can't wait for next week. Can't wait to have you back. Thank you all. You are all wonderful. You're doing the best you can. Keep on doing the best you can.
Well, thank you all so much for joining our first live stream. Hang in there. We are all better together, as Tanya said, and we're really looking forward to continuing to support one another and grow this amazing community of educators. So we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching. Click the link in the description below to explore more free online professional development, and click the link on screen to subscribe to the channel for more videos.